It's always a feel-good moment when you see companies, especially the big companies, out in the community helping people with building homes, teenage programs, fundraisers, doing various things to make the environment better, to make their community better, partnering with various programs. Well, this particular activity is known as public relations. So that's what we're going to talk about today. There's so many aspects of public relations and there's various reasons why a company would do it. So let's get into it and talk about it and how it differs from publicity. Let's go. You're listening to Marketing Adventure, the hub for business, fashion, marketing, and other CTE educators who integrate marketing into the learning experience. I'm your host, Jackie Walker. Each week, I'll cover marketing education concepts, strategies, tips, trends, frameworks, and other information to equip you to connect your classroom to digital natives while cultivating an engaged learning environment. So come on into the room where your favorite beverage, snacks, and even your cell phone are all welcome. What is public relations? Well, it is the activities that are designed to build positive relations via unpaid and earned methods. And it involves three primary audiences: customers, employees, and the community. What is the purpose of public relations? We talked about publicity last week, and now we're going to talk about public relations, and we'll marry those two in the end so you can see how they work hand in hand. But for right now, the purpose of public relations is to actually persuade or convince an audience, which is an external audience or an internal audience. And there are several ways in which they do this. A person, business, or entity could be trying to persuade people inside their own building or their own town. So it could be a company trying to persuade their employees, or it could be the, say, government of a city trying to persuade the people who live in that particular area. That they could be trying to persuade or convince people who are outside their usual sphere of influence. Maybe it's a new audience that they're seeking to reach out to, and they want to persuade them about who they are, their image, and all of various aspects of that person, business, or entity. It could be used. Public relations could be used to promote an idea. You bring in something new to the forefront, and you have to persuade people. You got to get people to buy into it. And maybe that you're using public relations because you want people to buy your product, or that you're trying to support a particular position. You want them to support your position in a particular situation or matter. And it could also be used to recognize the accomplishments of a particular person, business, or entity. So those are some of the reasons that support the purpose. Secondly, public relations is used to protect, enhance, or build positive publicity and to manage the reputation through like a careful management and sharing of information. It's essentially highlighting brand values for a person, a company, or an entity or a brand. And those values are really essential for creating shared meaning and connecting to their audience. Those values can connect and resonate with a person's own beliefs. It could be the person who's doing the public relations beliefs, the company's beliefs, like the head of the company, their own personal values and beliefs, or the entity, whether it's a nonprofit or what have you. It could connect to their own personal beliefs, and they're trying to connect with an audience of people that this will resonate with. And the three ways in which they get this message out is through media, social media, and then self-produced communications, which are videos and things of that nature that they can put out through YouTube, TikTok, or various things. So this is essentially the purpose of public relations. You're trying to connect with an audience and get them to buy into who you are, to set up some type of public perception of who you are, and to manage your image, the idea of who you are. So there's so many things wrapped up into that. Now, one key thing to note is that effective public relations, and it's known as PR, so effective PR can help build a positive image for a person, a company, brand, or an entity. However, it cannot cover up bad publicity. Let's say that again. It cannot cover up bad publicity. So if there's something out there that you've done and it's given you a bad stain, a bad name, it's going to be hard to get some positive PR around you, the company, the brand, um, and wipe out that bad publicity. It can't cover it up. There's going to have to be a lot of work done to turn that around. And there are so many situations in life. I'm pretty sure that you may be familiar with some type of company that has had bad publicity or something of that nature, and they've tried to come back from that. And it's hard. It's hard to come back from bad publicity, because once you put something out there and it's in somebody's head and they connect it to your logo, your image, your name, or anything like that, it's hard to bring about positivity. And that's why you have a lot of companies that change their name, that change their logos, that do a whole new facelift. And then they have to get a whole PR department or hire an agency to help with that public image and to rebuild. So effective PR can build a positive image, but it cannot cover up bad publicity. Now that we know what PR is, public relations, and we know the purpose of it, what does it involve? So, in this next section, we're going to go over a few things that are involved in public relations. The 7 things that are involved in public relations are: number 1, identifying your target audience. You have to know the specific audience that you are pitching to, because it really needs to be specific so that it is effective. You don't want to try to reach the masses, because the message won't resonate with everyone else. It has to be a particular group of people. You have to identify that, and then everything that you do is done with that particular group in mind. Number 2, you want to research your competitors. Everyone has competitors. And so you want to make sure that you're one-upping them with your public image, or with the events or things that you're doing to resonate with the community or that particular target audience. Maybe you notice there's a lack of something in particular with what is being done for a community or for the employees. Maybe your competitor doesn't do this particular thing with their employees, have a, let's say, yearly annual picnic that is free for the employees and their families, and bring them out, have all kind of festive events and things of that nature, give away money, cash wars, different products or whatever, raffles, all that kind of stuff. That's gets into the media. That's public relations. Maybe your competitor isn't doing that for their employees, and everybody's going to notice. The employees of the other company are going to notice. The community is going to notice. Everybody's going to notice. And so that's going to build a certain perception for your company if you're doing things of that nature. So research what your competitors are doing. PR involves media pitches, of course. It involves reaching out to journalists, pitching them your stories or your clients' stories so they can feature them in their publications. And so what is that? That's publicity. We're reaching out to media and we're saying, hey, can you feature me? So you give them a press release or a press kit, so that they can have the information and they can share it through their publications, through their channels of media. It also involves storytelling. So you want to leverage different channels and platforms, to distribute the content effectively. And the content is the story of who you are, your company is, what the brand is all about. So you can release information, just tidbits of information over a period of time to tell the story of who you are. In storytelling, you want to create engagement. Now, there are two aspects to storytelling too. So you can create a story. That's you creating, coming up with the narrative, or you could be following a story, which means that you're talking about something that is already out there existing, and you are talking about it to bring attention to that storyline, and you're putting your own spin on it. You're maybe even connecting it to your brand or your company, and you're just giving your perspective. And this helps get you noticed. People will say, oh, well, I didn't know this company had this position about this particular event or news trend or what have you. And that can draw them into you, your company, your brand, or your entity. The thing about storytelling is that you need to consider, is it new information? Is it unusual information? Or is it of human interest? Is there a human interest angle to it? So you do need to be mindful of these things when you're doing storytelling. And like I said, for the most part, you create a story. This is the most common form of public relations, you creating your own story. You're telling a story. And then the other part is that you are following a story, So again, you're going to hop onto the bandwagon of something that's already going on out there and putting your own narrative to it or connecting it to your brand, your company, or your entity. PR also involves brand positioning and messaging. It involves articulating the brand's value proposition, um, differentiating themselves from their competition, and their unique selling points. These are all key to resonate with the target audiences and the stakeholders, people who are buying into the company. You want to set yourself apart. You want to make sure that people understand what value you have. You want to understand what makes you different from others and what is your unique selling point. Like, what is that one thing that is unique to you, the brand, the company, or the entity, or the person? So brand positioning and messaging is what it involves. So PR also involves relationship building and networking. This is essential. It is about building and nurturing relationships with various stakeholders. As I mentioned, stakeholders are people that have an interest, who are those key people that you need to have buy into what you're doing. They're the people who have an invested interest. It could be like CEOs of a company. It could be a board. The most companies have a board of people. So it could be various people who are designated to keep their finger on the pulse of what's going on with you and how well you're doing. And they could be the people that make decisions about your company, your brand, your entity, you as a person. So it's key to get there, nurture that relationship. This includes journalists, influencers, industry experts, customers, investors, and community members. So it could involve a wide range of people. So this is where, the networking comes into play. Connecting at networking activities, attending industry events, and cultivating those connections to enhance, the visibility of the brand, the company, or the entity, and also the credibility. Lastly, PR can involve crisis management. Now, crisis, is something that represents the potential to erode customer trust in a company or a brand or an entity. It can undo like the work that you've done to establish yourself in the community, your public image and your perception. So, crisis management is sometimes needed to avoid those situations. Some of the things that can be done to help crisis management process is prepared statements. We hear those all the time in the media. When something's gone wrong, you have a representative for the company to come out and give a statement about the company or the incident or what have you. You can help companies can enact a crisis management plan and communicate to their customers and the public to offer them reassurance. So they have to do a process of activities and things of that nature to give reassurance to their customers, their audience, their support system, their stakeholders that things are okay, or that they have to rebuild that perception, that perceived idea and image of the company through crisis management. So that's one thing that PR focuses on is crisis management. So let's get into some tools that are used for PR. And this is where we're going to get into like some of the publicity aspect of public relations. Number one, write a press release. Does that ring a bell? Press releases are publicity. They are free communication that you give to media outlets to talk about your brand, your company, your entity. Secondly, you can write a speech and give a speech, whether it's to your target audience. So that could be a group of students, that could be um, a speech that you do at an event, a conference, um, a variety of things. It could be at a networking event, but write a speech. It's going to bring attention to you. You could write a pitch, and this pitch is about, you, the company or the entity, and send it out to journalists. Again, it could be a part of a press release. But it's a pitch that can be read. So your pitch is something that you can say in 60 seconds or less. And it is pitching your company. And so you put in the specific words, just like your press release, and it will be read or communicated to that audience. Create a special event. People love coming out to events, and especially if you're giving away stuff. So create a special event that's a public outreach and have media relations involved in it. That's one way to have a public relations event. So market research is another tool to use to really do some research on the messaging of the company, the brand, or the entity. Again, another tip is or tool that you can use is networking. So you want to expand your contacts by networking and attending events or sponsoring an event. Of course, social media is always a tool that you can use for promotions and responses. So definitely engage your social media as a tool for public relations. And lastly, you can write a blog. Writing a blog or having some kind of newsletter that continuously comes out that people have access to that you can share information with and connect with them and build up that engagement. So that is one of the last tools that you can use as a part of public relations. I wanted to take a little bit of time here to go over what the difference is between advertising and public relations. So, advertising, I'm just going to go through this list. Advertising is paid for, public relations is earned. Advertising builds exposure. Um, PR builds trust. Advertising isn't you have an audience. Your audience can be skeptical. With PR, the media gives third party validation. Advertising is guaranteed placement. With PR, there's no guarantee. It must You must persuade the media. So with advertising, There's complete creative control. With PR, the media controls the final version. Remember when I said in publicity, you can give them the information, but you can't control what they actually say. They'll take tidbits of your information and they'll put out the parts that they feel like is the best soundbite for them, basically. With advertisement, ads are more visual, mostly visual. With PR, it's a lot of language involved. There's a lot of words involved, not as much visual. With advertising, it is more expensive. PR is less expensive because it's generally free. The free 99, right? And then finally, with advertising, you are saying, buy this product. And with PR, you're saying this is important, and you're giving validity as to why it's important. So those are the main difference between like paying for something and getting out that publicity and doing the public relations to connect with an audience of people. So that wraps up public relations, which is closely tied to publicity. So just the difference is that public relations are the things that you're doing to connect to your audience and to create this public perception of who you are, connecting to the idea, building up an image of who you are. And publicity is the avenue in which you're doing it, like the message that you're sending out. It's how you're getting the message out to that community of people. So public relations uses publicity. All right. So I hope this has been a very valuable lesson for you. And I hope you are able to implement this in your classrooms and help your students understand what public relations is all about. I do thank you for joining me here at Marketing Adventure with Jackie. And I hope that you have a wonderfully blessed day. Thanks for listening to Marketing Adventure. Remember to subscribe, rate, review, and share this episode with someone you think would benefit from the information shared here today. If you have any questions or want to connect with me, find me on Instagram at Marketing Adventure. All links and resources discussed in this episode can be found in the show notes at marketingadventure.com.